Adar. They were benching the month of Adar, and it was Erev Rosh Chodesh Adar Rishon Tavshin Memtes. So the Rebbe in the Sicha will only learn 2 excerpts of the Sicha. The Rebbe in the Sicha takes 2 points. We've learned parts of the Sicha before. Some of it might sound familiar to you. And he speaks about the significance of Mishpatim and Adar coming together. Mishpatim, what Mishpatim is about, the civil laws, and also, interestingly enough, which number parsha it's in the Torah. And that has significance to the idea of Simcha, which has significance in the month of Adar. So he says, Yedua Pizgim Rabbeinu Azakin, it's known, the saying of the Alter Rebbe, Shenimsav and Nisgalav and Nisbarsa, my Dekvaitus, my Recham Yadmun, Nesidareinu, that was given over and was revealed and was made well known through my father-in-law, the leader of our generation, Shetzrichim Lichyos im Azman, that one needs to live with the times. Lichyos im Minyone HaTorah, Hashayachim L'Zman Zeh, to live with matters of Torah that are connected with this time. What parts of Torah connected with this time? So first and foremost, Hachel meParshas Shavua, beginning from the Parsha of the week. Kaloimar. This means to say, She'inyonei HaTorah Nasim Chayav Shel Yehudi, that matters of Torah become the life, the vitality, the energy of a Yid. Chayenu v'oirech yameinu, as we say about Torah, that the Torah is our life and the length of our days. Ad l'chaim gashim to kipshutim, until the literal simple sense of physical life. Physical life, it literally sustains them and gives them life and vitality in everything. Yeshleimar, we could say, shebe'inyan zeh, concerning this idea about how the Torah has to be physical life for the person. Yesheremes beParshas HaShavua, Parshas Mishpatim. There's a hint in the Parsha of the week, which is Parshas Mishpatim. Liyoisa HaParsha HaYud Ches Maschos HaTorah. Since it's the 18th Parsha from the beginning of the Torah, if you count from Parshas Bereshis at the beginning of the 5 books, the first, this is Parsha number 18. Shesimona Chai, that its sign and indication is the idea of life. L'ram is to hint, Yehudi tzarech lichyos im ve'ela mishpatim. A Yid needs to live with these are the mishpatim, these are the laws. Ve'ela moisev al rishonim, and these add to the first. Why does the parsha begin with the word, with the letter vav and these? It should have just said, these are the laws, these are the mishpatim. Why does it say, and these? It comes to tell you that these laws are in addition to, and a continuation of what we had in the previous parsha. What did we speak about in the previous parsha? We spoke about the Aseres HaDibros. Therefore, Ma Rishonim Sinai, just like the first ones, meaning the laws discussed in Parshas Yisro, were given on Har Sinai. In other words, the Aseres HaDibros were explicitly stated in the Torah. They were given on Har Sinai. Af elu misinai, also these laws, also the laws in Parshas Mishpatim, are also given on Har Sinai. Hainu shetzrichim lichyos im ha'inyan the Sinai Torah. The 18th parsha in the Torah is telling you need to live with Sinai, because the whole Torah is given from Sinai. Whether the Aseres HaDibros or what it says in Parshas Mishpatim, all of that was given on Har Sinai. So that's what we have to live with. That is our life. That's why Parshas Mishpatim is the 18th parsha of the Torah. If so, you could ask, shouldn't Parshas Yisro, which we were given the Aseres HaDibros, shouldn't that hint at life? Why is it Parshas Mishpatim that hints at life by being the 18th parsha of the Torah? V'loi Parshas Yisro, it's not Parshas Yisro. A parsha of Matan Torah Gufa, the parsha of Matan Torah itself. Masha'enkim b'Parshas Mishpatim shetzorich lahadgish af elu misinai, was as opposed to Parshas Mishpatim, that we need to emphasize that also these are from Sinai. Why? So why is it like? Why are we emphasizing specifically by Parshas Mishpatim, which is like in addition to Yisro, it's given Har Sinai that you have to have chayis and you have to live with the Torah? Shouldn't you have said it right away initially in Parshas Yisro? So he says a very interesting thing. There is number 17 versus number 18. And we're going to explain that the difference between Parshas Mishpatim and Parshas Yisro, later he's going to talk about 17. I'm getting ahead of myself. Parshas Yisro is about Hashem giving us the Torah. Parshas Mishpatim is us with our mind and our intellect incorporating the Torah and making the Torah part of us, and that's what true life is. When it's digested and becomes part of us. I'll give you an example literally from eating. If you have food in your mouth, or if you have food on your plate, you were given food, but you still did not digest it, and it doesn't become your life. When does the food become your life and your energy and vitality? When you put it in your mouth, and after you put it in your mouth, you chew the food, and you swallow it, and then you digest it, then it becomes life. Yisro is Hashem giving us the Torah. Mishpatim, which is about our understanding, that's about digesting the Torah, making it ours and therefore being alive. Just gave you the point that he's about to explain. Top of the second column, the Parshas Yisro medubar b'ikroidus nesinas haTorah malmayla. In Parshas Yisro, it speaks about primarily about the giving of the Torah from above. Vayered Hashem al Har Sinai, that Hashem descended on Har Sinai. Hal yoinim yedu lo tachtoinim, those above descended below. V'il v'Parshas Mishpatim medubar b'ikr oidus kabbalas haTorah ha'idei Yisrael. As opposed to Parshas Mishpatim, it mainly speaks about the Torah being received by the Jewish people. Why is Parshas Mishpatim about the Torah being received by the Jewish people? Ve'el Moshe, we'll get to that in a moment, but we'll speak about that in the giving of the Torah. There are two components. Ve'el Moshe amar alei al Hashem, and to Moshe he said, go up to Hashem. In other words, Moshe, being the representative of the Jewish people, rose up to receive the Torah. So there's the giving of the Torah and there's the receiving of the Torah, as expressed by Moshe going up. Tachtoinim ya'alol yoinim, like the famous expression, the Medrash, that the ones below should go up to the ones above. What does that mean in our life and experience? This means that the Torah, which is represented by Sinai, permeates even the human intellect. That's the idea of Mishpatim, that are mitzvahs, that are rational laws. There are different types of halachas in Torah. There's halachas of paraduma, the red heifer. There's shatnez, not mixing wool and linen. These are super rational laws, laws that we have no understanding of. Mishpatim represents those civil laws that are logical and rational. As we see, the vast majority of the halachas in this week's parsha deal with rational, civil types of laws that have to do that any rational human being could come up with. In other words, these are mitzvahs that are understood and can be incorporated and permeates our being. And in such a way that you will place it before them. And what does it mean that you will place it before them? Like the Mefarshim explain it, Rashi brings this down. What is this idea of Tosim Lefneim? Throughout the Torah it says, Hashem spoke to Moshe, or Moshe spoke to the Jewish people. Here it says, Ve'ela Mishpatim asher Tosim Lefneim. You shall place it before them. In other words, serve it up. Serve it up like you would serve up food that's ready to be eaten. Not just give them like the bullet points and say this, and so on. Lavinam taimei adavar upirusham, to make them understand the reasons of any mitzvah and their explanation. Kishulchan ha'aruch, like a set table, umuchan, and it's ready, lechel, to eat, lefnei adam, before a person. That's what means place it before them, tosim lefneim. So again, that indicates that it's something that's able to be digested and permeates the person. To such a degree, through the mitzvahs that are called Mishpatim, the union of the person's intellect with the Torah, nasim gam hachukim b'chiras Mishpatim, shagam heim choydrim mitzvus shel adam. The Mishpatim affect the entire Torah, and they help that not only the rational laws that we understand become completely united with my mind and part of my being and so on, but it bleeds out. It pours over even into chukim, into the super rational laws, that even the super rational laws are affected by and infected by the Mishpatim aspect. And the Rebbe says in footnote 9, that's why, you remember we said before that the majority of the halachas in Parshas Mishpatim are rational laws. Yet, there is scattered ideas of super rationality in Parshas Mishpatim. The entire Parsha is called Mishpatim. And the Rebbe always says that the name of the Parsha indicates what the Parsha's theme is about. So seemingly, if the entire Parsha is called Mishpatim, so then every single mitzvah in Parshas Mishpatim should have been only rational Mishpatim mitzvahs, not mitzvahs of chukim. And yet, we find the mitzvah of not mixing milk and meat, which is a super rational law. It falls under the category of chukim in general. So how does it fit in Parshas Mishpatim? Another idea which we find in Parshas Mishpatim, we find that the Yidden said, Nasa before Nishma. Saying Nasa before Nishma, we will do, before we understand, is a chukim type of attitude, not a Mishpatim intellectual type of attitude. Yet, the Rebbe explains, these two things are included in Parshas Mishpatim because Parshas Mishpatim's effect is to such a degree and so powerful that it causes that even the super rational can permeate a person. It might not be intellectually understood, but because of the mitzvahs that are mishpatim, they affect and infect that even the super rational parts of the Torah could permeate the person. Now we understand why Parshas Yisro was not chosen to be the 18th Parsha of the Torah, indicating chai, vitality, life, energy, etc. But rather Parshas Mishpatim is number 18, last paragraph on this page. Therefore, this lesson that one needs to live with Torah, that's hinted in the 18th Parsha of the Torah, the chai Parsha of the Torah, is the Parshas Mishpatim dafke, specifically in Parshas Mishpatim. Because ha'efsharis lichyos ma'Torah, this capability to live with the Torah, sha'Torah chayderes b'metziusei shel adam, that the Torah permeates the very being of the person. Ad shechayim ma'Torah, until he lives with the Torah, sha'Torah nasas ha'chayis shaloi, that the Torah becomes his life force and his vitality. It's through these are the mishpatim that you will place before them. When the Torah permeates also the person's intellect, till it becomes a set table that's ready to eat before that person's ready to eat it. Al derech ubedugmas, like I mentioned before, achila kipshuta, similar to literal eating. That what happens when a person eats the food? When a person eats, then it's shenasis damu basar kipsarei, that the food that he eats becomes his blood and his flesh. Shaydeza yichya adam, through this a person will live. And now he's going to bring in what I told you about before, the difference between the number 17 versus the number 18. This will be even more geschmack. Parshas Yisro hi parsha yud zayin b'gematria toif. Parshas Yisro is the 17th parsha in the Torah. Parshas Mishpatim is the 18th. So Yisroi, Parsha we read last week, was the 17th. 17 is B'gematria Toiv, is the numerical equivalent of Toiv, which has very much to do with Parshas Yisroi, Ein Toiv Ala Toira. Toira is considered good. Elasha Toivu Ba'oifen Shal Oir. The goodness is in a way of light. Ha'oir Ki Toiv, the light which is good. Like it says, by Hashem he saw, Vayar Elikim Es Ha'oir Ki Toiv. When Hashem created light, he saw that it was good. So we see this association that something that is called good is related to light. And that's why one of the explanations, it says that when Moshe Rabbeinu was born, his house was filled with light, is derived from the fact that it says his mother saw him and he was good. What does it mean he was good? So we have to go back to Chumash Bereshis. Then in Chumash Bereshis it says, Vayar Elikim Es Ha'oir Ki Toiv. Hashem saw that the light was good, so that when Yocheved saw that the house filled up with light when Moshe Rabbeinu was born, that means, that was hinted in the word good as well, that she saw that it was good. So what is goodness associated with? 17, Parshas Yisroi, with light. What is light? Hainu Gilui Momailo. Light is a revelation that comes from above. The sun shines to us. Hashem illuminates us. But it's not enough to just have the light. V'tzrichim lamshichoi lamata bihamata. We need to draw it down below, in the below. Sheyachdoi b'mitziyusei shala adam lach yoisei, that should permeate the very being of the person to give him light. And that is the idea of the toiv of Torah is not enough. Parshas Yisroi is not enough. In other words, Chassidus explains there's a level how Torah is called the Oir and Torah is called Chayis, or even there's different levels. Oir is transcendent; it illuminates, but it's not a personal experience within me. But how does it permeate the person to give him life? Through the 18th Parsha, which is the idea of alive. And Mishpatim these are the Mishpatim you should place before them, like a ready set table that's ready to eat, before a person that eats this. And to note, this idea is also hinted in the Sefer of that brings down the rules of halacha, that we call it Shulchan Aruch. The first section of Shulchan Aruch, we know that there's 4 sections of Shulchan Aruch that were divided. There's Ohr HaChaim, deals with the cycle of laws throughout the day and throughout the yearly cycle. Then there's other sections that deal with monetary issues, with marriage laws, with the issues dealing with prohibited and permitted things. But the first section of Shulchan Aruch, Rishon Gam B'Mayla V'Chashivas, the fact that it's the first is not just a numerical thing, but the fact that it's first, the Rebbe says, also indicates it's qualitatively first. Nikra b'shem Oirach Chaim. It's called the path of life. Kishmoi Keinu. That means literally we follow along by its name. That its name indicates what it is. Shulchan Aruch, that the Shulchan Aruch Nasa Oirach Chaim, it becomes, top of the second column, the way of the life. Derech v'seder chayav shel Yehudi b'chayim yom. The way and the order of the life of a Yid, this day-to-day life. Then the Rebbe adds an interesting twist on the word Oirach Chaim. V'yeshloimar, we could say, Sha'oirach hu Oir Ches. The word Oirach can be divided into 2. Oir, light, Ches. What's Ches? To draw down the light. Ha'oir ki toiv, this light which is good, ain't toiv ala Torah. Torah is the only good. Kifishi b'ofen shel gilim u'maylo. In a way that it's a revealed level from above, but it's still transcendent. It hasn't permeated me. But we want the oir to come down to the ches, ba'oifen she is gala v'yachter ba'ches, in such a way that will become revealed and permeate the ches. Rosh Tevis Chayim, ches stands for the word Chayim. Liyos oira Chayim, it should be the path of life. Derech v'seder Chayim yoyim yoyim, the way and the path of our day-to-day life. We're going to skip over to Ois Vav later on, second column in this following page that we are now going to learn. Another primary thing concerning this directive to live with Torah, it has to be in a manner of joy. Chayis is connected with and brings joy. Therefore, when a Yid lives with Torah, that the Torah Sinai permeates his entire being until it becomes his life and vitality. Automatically he's studying Torah and fulfills mitzvahs. This goes together. When do I have difficulty in learning Torah and doing mitzvahs? When there's me and there's the Torah. There's me and there's the mitzvah. But if the mitzvah and the Torah becomes my life, so then there's no blockages. This is who I am. This is what I'm about. It's not out of coercion because someone else commands him to do it. This is done out of vitality and joy. Because the Torah is our life and the length of our days. Like it's hinted also in Shulchan Aruch, the part of Torah, the part of Shulchan Aruch that we called before Oira Chaim, that the Torah becomes his path of life, like we learned before in section 1. The conclusion of the entire section of Shulchan Aruch Oira Chaim, after the way Shulchan Aruch Oira Chaim works, is first it talks about the daily cycle, so it'll go through from getting up in the morning till going to sleep at night. Then it goes on to the halachas of Shabbos, and goes through the entire halachas of what one does before Shabbos and throughout Shabbos, and what they're allowed to do, and so on. Then it goes through the general idea of halachas of Yom Tov, and then it starts going through Pesach and through Shavuos and through other, so on and so forth. And then at the end, it goes through, let's say, Purim, and finally, it goes into Purim Katan, which is very appropriate for this year. The minor Purim is celebrated when we have a double Adar. When there's a double Adar, when there's a leap year, so then we celebrate a minor Purim. Otherwise, we only have the regular Purim. And the Ramah over there discusses about the issue, is there an obligation to add in our meals and rejoicing when on Purim Katan? Obviously, Purim, regular Purim, is a whole big deal about adding a meal and eating a joyous meal and so on. What about Purim Katan? So it says over there, at the conclusion of the Shulchan Aruch Oira Chaim, where it talks about the halachos of Purim Katan, skip the parentheses, he says, Utoiv leiv mishtatamid. He concludes that the one who is good of heart, always in a state of celebration and joyousness. The conclusion is like the sum total of what Oira Chaim stands for. L'lamdach, to teach you, sha'achayim im ha'Torah, life with Torah, Oira Chaim, when you make Torah the path of one's life, tzarich liyos mitoch simcha tmidis, has to be out of a constant joy. And the Rebbe says in footnote 40 that that is the conclusion. And the beginning of Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim begins that I place Hashem before me always. When we have bittul to Hashem, so then we're able to incorporate and make the Torah part of our life. And then once we make the Torah part of our life, so then our entire life and our entire Torah is done out of a constant Simcha. There's a different Sicha where the Rebbe speaks about this at great length, going from this the bookends, that the whole Orach Chaim begins with Shavisa Hashem Lenegdi Samid, and it concludes with Toiv Leiv Mishta Tamids, the two Tamids that a Yid has to have. But that's a different Sicha, we learned about this once, and so on. So he says, V'inyan Zed, this idea about the joyousness of Torah has to be permeating our life. So he says, Nirmas Gam Parshas Mishpatim, it's also hinted in Parshas Mishpatim. That in Parshas Mishpatim is the first time in the entire Torah where the command of Yom Tovim is told, where it says Shalish Regolim Tochagli Bashanam, 3 pilgrimage festivals you should celebrate to me in the year, V'hoylach u'mefaret, and then he goes on and enumerates as Chag HaMatzos, the Yom Tov of the Matzos, in other words, Pesach. The Chag HaKotzir, the Yom Tov of the harvest, when you cut the wheat. That's the Yom Tov of Shavuos, and Chag HaOsif, and then there's the Yom Tov where you gather in from the fields everything, that's Sukkot time. These are Moyadim L'Simcha. These are Yom Tovim for joy. Shebehem Yeshna Atzivui V'Samachta B'Chag. That in them, in these 3 Yom Tovim, we have the command that you shall rejoice in your Yom Tovim. So therefore, why is it included again in Parshas Mishpatim? Mishpatim's message is about the Torah has to be permeating us. Why does it have the mitzvah of Yom Tovim, which is about Simcha? So he says, V'yeshloimar, we could say, Shebezen nirma shagam klolos ha'indim mishpatim, with the idea that he includes in our parsha, the idea of joy, is hinted that also the general idea of Mishpatim, Sha'at-Torah chayderes b'pnimiyusa shenasa chayis shaloi, that the Torah permeates the person internally until it becomes his vitality. That's why Mishpatim is the 18th parsha and so on. It specifically has to be in a way of joy, that it has to be in such a type of way that he is joyous, and that's how it's truly permeating him and truly becoming part of him. We can add in the explaining of the exact language, it says Yom Tov, skip the parentheses, V'lo Yom Simcha. It's not called. So we'll do again from the second paragraph from the top of the page. Oh, I gotta find the call Yom Tov. We call it in Shemoneh Esrei, we call it Yom Tov. In Kiddush, we call it Yom Tov. In benching, we call it Yom Tov. Skip the parentheses. V'lo Yom Simcha. It's not called Yom Simcha. V'kiyaytze b'zeh. L'ram is to hint. Sha'inyan de toiv, that idea of good. Ein toiv ala Torah, ha'er ki toiv, kivishu b'ofen shal yoim. The only good is Torah. And the light which is good. Do waits in the way of day. In other words, what does day indicate? Oir v'gilim al-maila, yoim toiv. It's a revelation of goodness. Nimshach v'choyder v'nase ha'chayis shalai. This is drawn down and permeates and becomes the person's life and vitality. Chayis akshurim simcha, a life and vitality is connected with joy. And va'aden to such a degree, l'simcha shechederes gam binyonim gashmim, to a joy that permeates also in physical matters. Ein simcha al-bebasar, there's no joy only with meat. Shalmi simcha, there's the obligation to bring a carbon shlamim, a peace offering of joy. At the conclusion and the seal of the section of Shulchan Aruch called Orach Chaim. Toiv leiv mishtatamid, the one who's good of heart, celebrates constantly. Again, that word toiv. Shemekiven sha'or ki toiv the Torah nimshach v'choyde v'nasa ba'ifin shel or ches. Rosh Tevis Chaim, since the light which is good of Torah is brought down and permeates and becomes the ches of Rosh Tevis, of the word Chaim, of life, Hareza ba'oifen the Mishpatim, it's in a way that it's always in a way of celebration. Top of the next paragraph. Chayis hakshurim simcha, it's a life and vitality, it's connected with joy. Va'ad l'simcha shechayderes gam binyonim gashmim, until it's a joy that permeates also physical matters. Mishte kipshutai, the literal idea of celebration and so on. Val pizeh tumte gam shaychusa shalayro lichis and matoyra v'pars mishpatim, according to this will become more gishmak, also the connection of the lesson of Parshas Mishpatim. Lichias imatoira b'Parshas Mishpatim lahazman b'shana zu. This living with the Torah to the time of this year, Shaboy Karim Parshas zu b'Torah, that in the time of the year that we read this Parsha in the Torah is Shabbos Mevorchim Chodesh Adar, the Shabbos Mevorchim of the month of Adar. So the Rebbe that was talking about in that year with Shabbos Parshas Mishpatim, we were benching the month of Adar. By us, we have it even more powerful. Rosh Chodesh Adar, the day that includes in it the entire month, is in Shabbos Parshas Mishpatim. The content and the idea behind the month of Adar is a Chodesh. It's the month that was transformed to joy. Simchas Purim cotton. It's the month of the joy of Purim, but it's not the regular Purim because it's a leap year, so it's a minor Purim, which we know Purim is Simcha Shalamaylam Didavagbola. The Simcha is beyond measure and boundary. Lamaylam is Simchas Kolamoidim. We know the joy of Purim is beyond the Simcha of all Yom Tovim. Shechederes Binyanim Gashmim, that permeates in physical matters, that we have to do it through celebration and through eating and drinking and physical celebration. Valderech said, Toiv leiv mishtatamid. So too what it says, it good of heart is always celebrating. Shebesim v'chaysim Orach Chaim. That's at the conclusion of Orach Chaim. She'inyas and his boyer. Besim hilchas megillah Purim. This was explained, like we said. It goes in the order of the year. The final halachas is Purim, and it ends off with Purim cotton with Toiv leiv mishtatamid. Even more specifically, like the Rebbe is saying right now, Bedinit Purim Cotton, with the halachas of the minor Purim, Yudal with Tesvav Adar Rishon, the 14th and 15th of the first Adar, Sheshayach B'Yoyser B'Shnana Zu Shnasa Ibur, that's even more applicable this year, which is a leap year. Sheshaychus Shal Zu L'Zman Shal Simcha, the connection of this level, of this lesson of Parshas Mishpatim to a time of joy, emphasize even more that the vitality and passion with Torah has to be specifically out of joy. Until literally rejoicing with physical types of things that brings to rejoicing. Just like the chayis with Torah permeates also physical life in the literal sense, like we said before, ki heim chayenu v'arich amenu, which we permeated with this physical joy.